Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Hi, it's Haley from Your Clear Next Step. Did you know our mission is to help people have better workdays so that together they can co-create better communities? We do this by helping people make authentic human connections, deliver real business value, and treat change as a process, not an event. We have several upcoming classes that you won't want to miss. Sign up today at yourclearnextstep.com/events.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Even Better podcast. This is Sinikka Waugh, and this is part of our ongoing mission here at Your Clear Next Step to help us all have even better workdays so that we can co-create better communities. And I am so delighted to welcome you here today. Thanks for coming back to another episode. And I am delighted to welcome my friend and our guest, Scott Post. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, this is going to be so fun. I got a chance to see Scott not all that long ago, as time happens. It wasn't all that long ago when we were at a conference together here in continuous improvement in the Des Moines Metro. And so Scott and I got a chance to reconnect. And for those of you who don't know Scott, Scott is Scott is a person to know. Scott is Scott Post with S Post Consulting. He has made a career in continuous improvement. And I tell you what, when I met Scott years ago, we met in one of my project management trainings. So this was we were counting the years, and then we decided not to count all of the years, but it's been a lot of years. I was training at Pellicorp all those years ago. Scott worked there at the time. And of course, this was one of those clients that has rolled up their sleeves and embraced the spirit of and the heart of continuous improvement. And so that was a moment when Scott was learning and soaking in and getting immersed in among the best of the best in that world of corporate mindset and operational excellence and continuous improvement and process improvement, and continued on that journey. Scott, if I followed your career path here, you've continued on that journey in other places, and you've done these amazing things. You soaked it all up. You've had this amazing career learning from corporate, and now you've taken this and you've gone solo, and you are now consulting in this space, and you're making the world a better place. You're helping other people have better work days. So you've taken your own days and you're helping
That's
other
right.
people do it better. So tell us your story, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I feel like I've spent my work life anyway, as learning how to do things better, and it's process improvement and even better work days. It's just being a little better than yesterday. So I love the work that you do as well in trying to help people find that. And over the course of time, I think even taking that first class with you, Sinikka, was me learning what was project management, right? This is a tool, this is a process, this is a way to do work better. And there's just many examples of that, and helping people, first of all, learn those myself, applied them, and now helping others pick the right tool for the right problem that needs to be solved within organizations.
Yeah, and I love that. And my recollection from even that first class, this is why you stick out in my memory of even that first class. It was not just how can I use this, but how can I use this to help others?
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, right? What's the what's the point? What's the point of having tools? What's the point of having skills? What's the point of having knowledge? What's the point of having the things that we have if we can't share them in our workplaces, share them in our days, share them with the people around us to make their lives, their days just a little bit better?
Yeah, for sure. And then what I think I love about that, when you talk about teamwork and you have a process and a system that you're all using, you have a common language, a common way to do things. What I see a lot of times organizations is they know how to do the work. They just don't know how to improve the work. But when you can get that teamwork and common knowledge around how to improve the work, in my opinion, the work gets a lot more fun.
It does. It doesn't have to be drudgery. I remember
Right.
years ago, someone said, oh, they looked at me and they said, with you, it's not just survival, is it? And no, it's not just survival. It's about, can we do it better? How do we
Yep.
make tomorrow better than today? Let's make it better. Oh, love this. Love this. Okay, so our topic of today, and so I want to set the stage as best I can for our listeners, right? Because we've got listeners who are in corporate, listeners who are in small business, listeners who are solopreneurs, who are entrepreneurs, who are spending their day caring for their families. So we got listeners from all different walks of life. And our mission is to help people have better work days, better days, so that we can co-create better communities wherever we are. So we're talking about the topic that we have today is continuous improvement, that whole idea of lean. You are a specialist in this area, and how it can help you create more good days, right? How that idea, how does that happen? How does that really come to be? And so we've got lots of space that we can play with here. You are a specialist and an expert in this domain, and so I love the idea of what we can learn from you today. So that's where we're going to go. So anyone who's listening, that's what we're talking about. This idea of continuous improvement, this idea of
Mhm.
what this mindset is and what it brings to the table, and how that approach can help us have more days, more better days, more better, right? How can we
More
have
better.
more better days? All right. So let's talk about how you first got started in this. How did it come to be interesting to you, Scott?
You've heard of the knack. I'm an engineer by education, and they say about engineers, right? You have the knack. You have this irresistible desire to tear things apart, figure out how they work. And I think early on in life, I thought that meant only like physical things, right?
Mm,
Like the bicycle or something like that, that it was a mechanical that was going to take it apart, the radio and see what was inside there. And then over time you realize that applied more to just the physical things. And I was trained as a diesel mechanic when I joined the Marine Corps, and I loved that. And I still love to go outside and get my hands dirty. But what I learned through that is I wasn't challenged enough. And then I kind of switched to, like, if I can fix and repair these things, I want to learn how to design it better so it doesn't break in the first place. And that led me into engineering following my time in the Marine Corps. And so I don't know, always being wired that way. And then you said it in my introduction, was blessed to start working with Pella Corporation as a co-op student while I was at Iowa State University. And at that time, they were 15, 20 some years into their continuous improvement journey. So I got a front row seat to practicing how to make things better. And then the primary role I served there was a continuous improvement engineer. So it literally became what I did day in and day out and helped people apply these tools. So just a great way to blossom that. Yeah. And it's always interesting because we talk a lot about work, but yet the same principles apply in our own lives, in our home lives too. And I think a lot of times um, we use the term common sense, or we think, well, that maybe is obvious, or if something bugs you, then you should just fix it. Um, but if you really stop and listen to when things bug you, there's always opportunity to make it even better.
mhm. Mm. Yep. I love that. I love that. So when we think about, I was marveling, minor aside, but it's sort of entertaining, and it will tell you a little bit about the dynamic that I live in right now. I've got a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old daughter, and our 20-year-old has time that she has carved out in her relationship with the boyfriend. So the 20-year-old and the boyfriend, they have time every week that they it might even be daily, but I know there's a time on the schedule to work on their relationship. And I love this
Interesting. Hmm.
continuous improvement, right? We're gonna work on a relationship. We're gonna get better because it's not just about existing. It's not just about who we are together, but how do we get better together? And it just makes me so proud.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I always like that. I've heard it used in like marital counseling. Like when we have a disagreement or something that's bugging us, then right, our default mode seems to so quickly attack each other. Um, and the model is, right, we're gonna take that problem or that issue, whatever that's bugging us, and we're gonna move it off to the side, and then we're gonna look at it together and work on it. And it's essentially the same thing we do in our work world, right? We have a process or a system and we map it out or we put it on the board, and suddenly a whole bunch of assumptions that we thought the other person thought, or we assume this, or that's actually how that works, right? Things become clear when we just step back and look at something together. So right, it can be applied in a relationship and to, I don't know, widget manufacturing, whatever it might be.
Whatever it might be. And this is why there's so much there. So there's so much there to in so we're going to start down the path, right, of lean leadership, of servant leadership. There's there's so much there that we can continuously improve. If you set whatever it is that you're working on, whatever it is that you're looking at, if you want to improve it, we don't attack each other. We look at the system, we look at the process, we look at the thing that is being examined and go, how do we do this thing better? And how do we together solve it? How do we together bring our best selves to the table to make this thing better? What are some of
Yeah.
the what are some of your favorite moments, your favorite ahas from this journey that you've had where you're like, ah, I watched this team really tackle something tough and they solved something really amazing together? Any favorite stories?
Well, I'll start with one personal. We talk a lot about, I think it's Paul Akers as an author who wrote a book called 2 Second Lean. And his whole thing is if anything bugs you, just stop and fix it. And in his company, he asks his employees to take a quick video of the way it was before and the way you made it now. And let's just celebrate those micro wins. But he uses that term, fix what bugs you. And early on in our married life, we live on an acreage and we have over an hour of mowing to do. And what something that bugs me is when you're halfway done mowing and you run out of gas,
Okay.
and then there's no gas in the tank in the garage, right?
Hmm.
And so it was just like, we don't have to overcomplicate this and draw this process out, but we talked about it and like, here's what the process is going to be is every time you're done mowing, you fill the tank. That guarantees there's enough gas in there to get the next mowing done. And then if the tank is empty, you put the tank by dad's truck in the garage, and that's his trigger to go refill it. Um, that was one in my personal life that I like to tell because it was just like I could picture myself over 10, 15 years yelling at kids or who's the one who used the last, right? Like,
Yep.
no, we're not going to do that. We're,
Yeah.
we're just, this is how this works. And then that's the way
Yeah.
the process is. We all know that, and it doesn't bug any of us anymore. Right. And it's a
Right.
joy now to mow, not a frustration.
Right. When it's empty, you fill it.
Yep. Just this is how we do it. Um, and then, at the workplace, man, there's so many examples. Yeah, I think of a couple different things. One is with Pella. They did a lot of Kaizen events. So one of my roles was helping build a calendar and train people to lead these events and schedule them and identify what our big problems were. So it was always getting a group of people together. So you've seen it over and over again, the process of how to do that well and how impactful you can be, 25, 30% improvements. And a lot of companies, if you say, we're going to go try to find 10, 15%, they look at you cross-eyed like, man, we've been working at this for a long time. There's no way. But yet I've seen processes that we've improved 20 times and we're still sometimes getting that level of improvement. Um, so those are the stories that excite me. And then there's the really difficult problems that we've been kind of gnawing at or bumping into for a long, long time. And then when we really stop and apply the correct tools and put some effort and dedicate some resources to it, we can actually take that frustration out. And it was assumed that that would always be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's unpack a couple of these. Let's go and unpack the first one, which is the idea. You worked from a premise there that I really love, and I want to go back to the lawn mowing idea. And the lawn mowing idea sort of presumes that you don't want to spend your afternoons or some portion of your afternoon yelling at somebody for not filling a canister, right? Or not filling the gas can.
Right.
So there's this presumption that people inherently don't want to mess up. There's a presumption that people don't want to be yelled at and that you don't want to spend time yelling at people. And I'm saying this sort of tongue in cheek. I'm sort of being ironic
Right.
here because I think we know that. But when we go into so many of the dumb things that happen in our lives. Like dumb stuff happens. Something falls, something breaks, some process doesn't work, somebody lets us down, something takes longer than it should, something goes wrong. There's this habit that many of us have of defaulting to blame, defaulting
Right.
to something that's other than wait, we could have we could fix the process. Maybe the process didn't do what it was supposed to. And maybe we could fix the process instead of assuming the person is broken. Can we visit about this for just a second?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So what say you, my friend? What say you? Where do we start to unpack this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's some of those just dysfunctional human characteristics that we have that we jump to those conclusions or we default to some of those behaviors. And what I think I like about when you think about things and why they happen in the process that maybe exist, maybe in the background there, it immediately gives you pause and that moment of pause instead of reacting, right? I think we always make a better decision with that slight pause and understanding why did this happen. And when we talk about relationships, right? And you hear so often relationships are important, and especially in business, it's about relationships, and we all want healthy, good relationships. Um, well, that gets built over time and with trust, which is just the sum of those little pauses where I didn't, in a negative manner, react to something, and I show that right. I show my character by I can check my ego. I can stop and assess the situation a little bit before I jump in.
It is so powerful. I just want to
And
sit with this for a second. Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and I think when we talk about the workplace, and we can all really quickly imagine the bad boss that we've experienced or had, or the coworker who maybe does this, and we gloss over when we do it, and we excuse it when we do it for whatever reasons we have. Um, and so, you know, what I like to talk about when we talk about lean leadership, and you need those relationships and you need that collaboration and you got to have that trust. And if that isn't there, right, we struggle with everything else. Um, is we got to check ourselves and we got to look internal. We got to fix here. Yeah, it's hard to do,
Oh, well, my friend, if it were easy, we'd all do it. Oh,
right?
man. This stuff is
We
hard and it's so important. It's so important. And this is why I want to sit with this. You've used a word here that's so valuable and it's practical and it's actionable. And I don't want us to leave this thought without I don't know if it's a skill practice, I don't know if it's a reminder, I don't know if I'm giving people a chance to go grab a pen or what's happening here, but you've used that word pause, and I think that's the thing we need to write down. And if you need to hit the pause button so you can go grab your pen and write down the word pause, go hit the pause button and write down and then come back here because this word pause, there is something about in the continuous improvement exercises that I have been a part of, in the great leadership exercises that I have been a part of. There's an overlap here, and the power of the pause is right here. It's the even as you described the 2 second pause, the fix the thing that's broken and fix what bugs you. Pause for a second. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't mean give yourself permission to fly off the handle. It's not react. It's pause. Pause for a second. And it also doesn't mean stop the presses and throw everything out with the bathwater and immediately go into analysis paralysis because clearly everything is broken and we have to re-engineer and redesign everything we've ever known. It's also not that. It's
Right.
pause. It's not the stop button. It's the pause button. Pause doesn't mean I'm broken as a human. Pause doesn't mean the system is broken as a human. Pause or as a system, it means that there's a flaw. It means we gotta check something. We gotta fix something. And there's this word is so powerful. I just don't want to lose it. I don't want to leave it. It's so important as humans. It's so important for like it's like a nap in the middle of the day. Sometimes you just need to pause.
Yep. Uh,
Oh. Okay, so where else can we see pauses that have helped us in continuous improvement, in leadership, in other examples, places where you've seen pauses allow for reset, for fixes? Let's see if we can get any examples on the table here.
yeah. So one that comes to mind immediately is a lot of times in continuous improvement, we think of fixing and messed up things. I'm recently working with a client who is going into a new area of business, some new products that are adjacent to some of what they're doing. And in this case, this owner is saying, pause for a little bit and let's slow down and talk about what could this really look like. So I think the traditional is just like, yep, we should do that. We're going to go spend a bunch of money, buy some stuff, and hope it's right. That might work. Actually, it's worked for a lot of people in the past. But then later on, they kind of wonder why their margins are eroding or why it's not quite what they thought it was. Where this leader is taking a pause and he's saying, I'm not going to do that initial reaction of just throwing some money at the problem. We're gonna stop here and really talk this through, get some outside folks. That's why I was brought in, along with several other outside experts in the subject matter area, to say, hey, what can this look like? The other pause, so that's sort of that future looking. We don't even have a process yet, but we're working on the design. The other side is we have a organization that's really messed up.
Mm,
And when I get in those organizations, what you find every single time is no one set out to build it.
yeah.
No one set out to intentionally manipulate or create a bad process. No one was there trying to make it horrible for the customer. I like the word entropy. We think of that mostly in science, right? But processes all have entropy. Systems all have entropy. So for lots of a host of reasons, right? Things degrade over time, or we lose sight, or we hyper focus on this because we think it's so important, and then this just doesn't get any attention over here, and it degrades, right? So in those cases too, it's important to pause and do an assessment because reacting to the next thing, it maybe feels right, and a lot of time, our gut is right, but yet if I'm reacting on my gut, fixing my little paradigm or section of work, and I don't step back and realize that a lot of times I'll optimize my area and make it worse to the person in front or behind me or beside me, whether that's a different department or the next step in the process, et cetera. So it's taking that pause and just like, okay, do I really understand what the impact of this change is going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got another example of working with a very, very large national federal organization and the speed at which it takes them to process their to do their cycle processing, if you will. So
Hmm.
a tweak or a change that happened to their cycle processing, you make that process, and then there were too many changes that were being made, one right after the other, right after the other, right after the other, and we weren't having enough time to see what was the impact of a change before the next change was being made, and another change, and then the changes were coming too frequently for us to see what's actually the impact here. And so there's this, wait, pause, just pause, stop feeding new stuff into the system until we can see what actually happens in this, until they all make it through the cycle, the processing cycle. And then when they get all the way through the processing cycle, then we can see, okay, let's let them all clear, let all the balances or whatever the right word
Uh-huh.
is clear, and then we can see if we need to make another one. Pause,
Right.
just pause.
Pause.
Let it all settle for a second so we don't create new
Yep,
messes.
I got that lesson as a young engineer, right? You come in and all excited and chomping at the bit, and the seasoned veteran has to come up and tug on your sleeve and say, Scott, you're pulling a lot of levers and pushing a lot of buttons. I don't think you know where you're at anymore. You're right. We should take a pause here, right?
Let's take a pause. Let's take a pause. Love that. As humans, we probably also need pauses from time to time. I jokingly referred to the nap, but there is
Right.
something there about our there's a day of rest that's recommended for us.
That's right. Day of rest, a daily nap, a regular vacation, right? All those are pauses that are necessary in life for sure.
Yeah, even out of the, as you attended the 2-day project management training years ago, which we do live and in person. I still do that, by the way. I do still teach with the crazy chicken, still part of the curriculum.
Yes.
But what we've done is we switched that online, not switched it entirely, but we have it available online. And even in our online curriculum, we stop for 10 minutes out of every hour. And for 10 minutes out of every hour, when we do the virtual training, whether it's a half day curriculum or a full day curriculum or 2 days, 10 minutes out of every hour, we ask people to step away from their machine. Just whatever you're doing, just turn your cameras off, turn your mic off, and go outside, go talk to a fellow Earth person, go pet a puppy, step away from your pause, right? Pause, step
Hmm.
away from your screen, step away from your computer, don't check your email, go do something else. Let your body stop learning for a second, let that soak in, let it register, go do something else, move your body, get up out of your chair, walk around, because your body needs something else for those minutes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about lean consortiums a little bit. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about because when we saw each other last, we were at groups of people. So pausing is one of the things that we were just coming out of. Sometimes when we pause and we get together. And bringing people together is another thing that I think is one of the things that comes out of continuous improvement work when those of us who have the problem come together to see the problem and work on the problem, we can solve the problem better. I find this to be a really successful strategy. Like get the people all and only the right people in the room to
That's
solve the
right.
problem, right? Um,
Yep.
and and so lean consortiums are great places for folks who collaborate together to come together and see what's going on and what they need. What have been some of your fun experiences with those over the last couple of years?
Yeah. I think you said specifically lean consortiums. So in continuous improvement and process improvement, we have the lean community. There's several consortiums that I'm involved in with that. That may not be our listeners group, right? They
Right?
they may have their own group, whether that's the Bankers Association or the nursing event, whatever that might be. But the importance of just stepping away from some of that day to day and connecting with others that do similar work that you do, and the learnings that you get from that are so super valuable. It's why I've been involved with the consortiums for 15, 20 years of actively helping lead some of those groups now, because I've recognized the impact they've made in my career and in my learning, and I want to do the same thing for others as well.
Yeah. And this is so important too because it's not just something that you go and you show up. And I don't think I've ever known you to just go and show up somewhere. That's not really how you live life. But when it comes to spaces like that, whether it's in a professional association or a community group of any sort, there is always an opportunity to go and absorb. There is always an opportunity to go and listen, to go observe, and to go absorb and to go and learn. And then there are also other opportunities. What kinds of other opportunities have you seen and benefited from, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. You can show up and listen, but we learn more when we begin to teach. And I have a very specific gentleman I'm thinking of right now who quite a few years ago spoke at a lean conference. And at the time he thought, who am I to speak? And I don't really know, right? All those self-doubts and things like that. And he just stepped into the arena and did it. And he speaks of that now, how important that was for him, for his learning and development. And you get that step change of, I'm not just listening, I'm not just observing, I'm not just practicing. Now I'm teaching. And for me as a new entrepreneur and a consultant too, right now I'm teaching others more. So it's completely different than working within the corporate world. I'm learning probably more now when you could arguably say, well, you're a consultant now, you know it all, right? It doesn't work that way, right?
Nope, it does not.
Yeah, you can come to the table and listen and observe, or you can come to the table with some questions. And you can come to the table with some theories and something to contribute and something to stir around with others, right? And then that interaction of working together and talking through that is how we learn and grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so many of those organizations also need volunteers to help facilitate the day, to host the day, to register people, to check people in for the day, to help,
Yes.
introduce people in sessions at the day. And so if you're thinking, oh, I want to get involved and I don't think I'm ready to contribute a question or even I don't know if I'm ready to contribute a question or a topic, but I want to show up and be present. Well, show up and be present. There's ways to
Mhm.
get involved, and being around communities like that are just that's how we that's how we deepen our friendships, our relationships, our knowledge,
That's right.
our curiosity, and it's a great way to pause and refresh, and a great way to contribute to the disciplines.
Yes. Yep.
Ah,
Yeah, we get enough echo chambers in our lives, whether that's personal or within family, or I think even in the workplace, right? Where we're in the same small circles. And the more I think we can step outside of those to see a different perspective is always helpful.
yeah. You alluded to that a little bit before we got started on the recording, Scott, but maybe for our listeners' benefit, how are you finding that balance between the comparison or the contrast between when you were doing the continuous improvement type work and the process improvement and operational excellence type work within corporate compared to now as an entrepreneur on your own 2 feet? What's that contrast look like for you?
I think in general, it's in my corporate experience, especially with Pella, they had been doing this work for many years, so there was a very clear documented system and a way they do that, a culture around it and things like that. What I'm finding with most of my clients is they're earlier on in their journey.
Mm.
So they've been playing with it some on their own, and they see the benefit. It's working, but they're stumbling or struggling with a few things, and they need to start creating and building kind of that culture and system of how do we get better and how do we better solve problems. Um, so I think I've had to learn to maybe step back a little bit of how do you go from here to there versus that final solution, which we even in education, right? We solve very complex, difficult calculus problems in engineering school, right? Uh, but we don't do that work very often. A lot of times, right? The problems are we need to work through something a while before we get to that level of maturity or difficulty in what we're really looking at.
Yeah.
It's like to keep it simple. I don't know, we jump to overcomplicating things or to the complex.
Yeah.
And I think the answer is oftentimes more simple than we originally think.
Yeah. So what are those sort of key principles that you keep in your hip pocket that are the things that guide you?
Yeah, I would say simple is definitely one of them. And then when we come to problem solving, a problem is easy to solve if it's clearly defined.
Mm.
It's easy to say that. I love to talk about how human beings are amazing, creative people,
Mhm.
and we have some good characteristics that serve us very well. One of those is reacting to our gut or jumping to conclusions because we've seen something before, right? And in some applications, that's absolutely the right thing to do. In other applications, it's actually very damaging to do that way. So it's when you get complex organizational issues and things that you're solving, then it's usually about let's slow down a little bit. Let's define what it is very clearly, what we're trying to do, what we're struggling with. It's usually not this big old thing. It's smaller than that, and we just need to take some first steps.
Yeah. So could you take that same principle of keeping it simple, defining the problem, and starting with a first step? Could you take that and apply that to like working, figuring out how your spring schedule is going to work as a family? I mean, could you take those principles and take them out of business, take them out of corporate? I mean, obviously, you take them out of corporate and put them into other enterprises. Could you take them out of business altogether and put them in your household, put them in your life, put them in your volunteerism?
Absolutely. Think about how often we meet each other and we say, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, I'm so busy." Like that's us defaulting immediately to the complex of this quagmire of everything that's happening in life and all the things that have to fit on the schedule. And that's sometimes true, right? There's a lot of stuff. But if we just back out of that complexity, back out of that reaction, that feeling, and just start breaking it down and have clear ideas of what we want to prioritize, then those decisions are pretty easy once they're clear. What are we really talking about? But if we keep all of that on the table, right, it's no wonder those decisions get hard. That's how I would say in especially in young families, sports activities, band, all of those things, right? That on top of our work schedules, we have to travel for work. We got all of that gets it can get overwhelming. But if we just slow down, pause, break it down a little bit, organize it, right, then the day goes smoother, right?
Yeah,
Even better.
even better. As I was listening to I was listening to one of Mel Robbins' podcasts the other day, and she was describing she had a guest on there who was talking about it's not a to-do list, it's a wish list. If we have our wish list, our to-do list not put into time blocks. And the argument was to make sure we take our time schedule and block to take our schedule of time for the day, pause for a moment, and schedule our time into actual intervals and put the work that we want done into those time intervals. And so to the example that you were just giving, if you have to travel for work or if you want to go to a ball game, whether it's your kids or your friends' kids or your nieces or whoever's it happens to be, or your own, you're playing in a community league. If you want to put that in, you prioritize that, and it will be impossible to be at that ball game and also at another place simultaneously. So
Right.
when you put it on the calendar, you cannot be mowing the lawn and also doing that at the same time. Now
Right.
you could have one of those automated lawnmower thingies mowing your lawn at the same place. So let's use technology where technology helps us.
That's right.
Or let's outsource, let's hire a neighbor kid to mow the lawn so we can go to the game, right?
Absolutely.
And then we can figure out how we want to use our priorities, but we cannot physically be in those two places at the same time.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yep.
But we have to pause long enough to think about it, define what the real problem is. So is the real problem that I'm trying to do all these things, or is it that I haven't chosen and articulated my priorities?
Right. And in my work now, I'll say with my coach hat on, a lot of times it's just helping people work through something like that, right? Where they got too many things stirring around inside the head, and it just okay, they just need a guide, right? Someone to start breaking this down, ask the right questions, simplify it. Then the usual next moves are pretty clear and pretty obvious once you can kind of clear that out. We think we can do that on our own as human beings, but we need family and friends and coaches to help us do that.
Yeah, to make it even better. Oh,
Hmm.
I love it. So what's we're getting near time, and I'm keeping an eye on that. But what is this wouldn't be the Even Better podcast if I didn't ask my trademark question. What's making you even better these days, Scott?
Yeah, we talked about consortiums or industry groups and things like that. For me, I participate in a couple leadership cohorts.
Mm.
So this is more a leadership focused. In the one group, we get together every month or so and we take a couple hours and we usually have a topic, or we bring in a speaker or a podcast or something that we'll listen to, a book, and we just get together. It's 6 of us that come from completely different industries, quite diverse from a workforce standpoint. And yet it's surprising how similar our problems feel in that group. A second group that I'm in is a bunch of small business entrepreneurs, where being at that table with that group, it's one thing for me to go help you do some continuous improvement in your organization, but if I can't run my own new small business consulting firm, right, I got to be able to do business as well. So that group is just really good for me because it's all small business. We don't have pools of resources. We don't have HR departments, right? It's what does this look like? So those groups are what help make my work even better. And that's just some intentional time and conversation.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. It's so important to have those networks, those groups of people that help us grow and that see things with us and for us from the spots that otherwise would be blind spots on our own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Get
powerful.
Get outside of your usual circles or your immediate work family, and see some different perspective, different ideas, and just it balances me, especially just helps balance and have a clearer perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Scott, if we were to wrap up some of the things that we've talked about today, we've hit a bunch of topics as we've covered this journey, and I'm so grateful for your time. If we're to wrap it up, where would you want to? What thought would you want to leave our listeners with a put a bow on it today as we're talking about continuous improvement and operational excellence from your mindset?
And it's so much of what we've all talked about. I knew this was going to be a fun conversation with you, just knowing your work and even the title of the podcast, even better. And I don't know why we landed on the word pause, but so often, right, we're running through the work instead of stopping to improve the work, or we're running through our lives instead of stopping to make an adjustment in our lives. So I just would encourage everyone is lean into what's nagging, what's bugging you, where's that frustration lie. Take an objective look at it, make an adjustment, and do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
I love it. Scott, if our listeners want to find you, of course, they can reach out to us and we will happily connect them. But otherwise, if they want to find you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, it would be go to my website for S Post Consulting. So it's spostconsulting.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active from the social side of things. So they can find me there as well.
Fantastic. Scott, thank you so much for your time today. What a joy.
Yes. Appreciate it.
You bet. And to all of you who are listening today, thank you so much for joining in. It has been a joy to spend this time with you. And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.